Great. A very, very warm welcome. Thank you. And sorry for the inconvenience which has been caused due to a technical error back end. But thank you for your patience and thank you for your support. My name is Ajay Pinjani, and on behalf of Global Schools Forum, we welcome you to a warm spotlight dialogue with the Language and Learning Foundation, especially with Dr. Mahendra Kumar Mishra. A bit about Global Schools Forum. You must have already been familiar with it. We are an organization who support non-state education organizations across low and middle income countries' contexts to innovate, deepen impact, and achieve goals and scale. We have been doing that since 2017. Our community has grown now to more than 180 organizations across 70 countries and more, with all of your support and many others' support in the education ecosystem. We believe that community is at our center, and with that, the knowledge being the acceleration force and partnerships and funding as our four pillars, where we want to build the community together and support each other in this journey forward. Today is an exciting moment. Though the International Mother Language Day has passed on in a week back, and lots other things have happened in this week, we wanted to pause on to that and reflect also on that front. But the mother tongue based education, when it was launched by UNESCO in 1999, was for sustainable development, inclusion, and preserving cultural heritage. It just means much more than that. And I know that with all of that language having that cultural repository and the association with identity and the meaning it holds for all of us in our individual and communal lives, somehow it just affects that why schools, when learning is not taking place, somehow that language is also not being taken into account fully. And we wanted to acknowledge that GSF has been working on this thematic front for a couple of years now, but there are many others who've been working for decades. And we are very, very honored to have among us Dr. Mahendra Kumar Mishra, who, born in Western Odisha, renowned linguist, folklorist, and educator. It has been 4 decades of field work which he has led with the indigenous groups in Odisha and now across India, where his publications, his researches, his books are widely read. And he's been accoladed with International Mother Tongue Language Award by UNESCO, conferred the Padma Shri Award in India in 2026 this year. And he brings this bridging region of folklore studies, linguistics, anthropology, and education. And he's also a trustee at Language and Learning Foundation and national advisor for mother tongue-based multilingual education for India. But he's also been a great help to many other researchers across the globe, including myself when I was working with the Citizens Foundation as well. So please help me honor him and welcome him over here. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahendra, for joining us today. Dr. Mahendra, it's really an honor. Dr. Mahendra, you're on mute.
Yeah, I have to mute myself. I don't know.
That's okay. Now you're perfect. Now we've spotlighted for everyone as well. And in between, if anyone wants to ask questions, share questions, please use the chat box and that'll be really helpful. This will be of a dialogue format. I will ask questions from Dr. Mahendra and take us through his life journey. We really want to learn as much as possible. So thank you, Dr. Mahendra, for joining us. It's really a pleasure to having you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay, and I'm really very happy to know that today the Global School Forum, led by you, and the Language and Learning Foundation are organizing this webinar to know my journey of multilingual education in Odisha and India. I am so happy that you have been selected me to speak on my journey of life on introducing MLE in India. So I'm really thankful to you and all the audience, all my inmates who are in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahendra. Dr. Mahendra, let's begin with maybe your life journey. It'll be really exciting to know your own childhood. What was your mother tongue? What is your mother tongue? And
Yeah.
what was your surrounding like?
I born in a tribal village with among the Gonds and the Kons tribes, and my childhood mates are from my early childhood till my graduation. I almost all the 50% of the students were from the tribal communities. I studied in a ashram school, and my mother tongue it was different from Oriya, and I'm from Western Orissa. The people of Western Orissa speak Kosli or Sambalpuri. The name of the local language is Kosli and Sambalpuri, spoke by about 1 billion people. And because I was with the tribal children during my childhood, both in society and also in schools, I was able to talk with them in their language, including Oriya and including local Oriya, that is Sambalpuri. And I the school language is different from the spoken language of me and also from the of the tribal children. So we were facing difficulties in comprehending standard Oriya language in books used in primary stage. So my parents were highly helpful to make me proficient in Oriya language and literacy, with telling stories and songs from the traditional Orissa and giving meaning out of that. So it was very interesting to learn both from the family and the schools the standard language, which may be called second language in my area, and I was very I do not know how I learned Oriya reading and writing literacy from class 1 and 2 with a very serious tension from the teachers and the parents. But in class 3, I really was very much keen to read these such small stories and the small poetry, children's literature from the textbooks, from the books, little books. And those stories were very meaningful and comprehensive to me to imagine and recreate the story from in my mind. So I started reading children's literature in 1963-65, class 3, 4, and 5. And that time, the government was spending a set of children's literature to all the schools with the traditional songs and stories of the state, Oriya, and also some modern singing, modern poetries written by the children's literature writers. So I love stories since our teachers were also particularly very much delightful storytellers and speaking stories in the classroom outside the textbook. So that really tempted me to delve into the listening and reading of stories outside the textbook, and also that helped me in learning standard Oriya language, literacy, and comprehensive literature. Okay, that was my childhood time. And in that time, when I was able to speak, read, and little bit write in Oriya language, but my friends, those who were tribals, were not able to understand the vocabularies of Oriya language and also the grammar, and were facing a lot of learning difficulties and comprehensive difficulties in those times. Then they were asking me, and I was explaining them in our mother tongue. So that was the childhood time that I have came with. Teachers were from the high society, so they were exclusively Oriya teachers, not knowing the local languages. So it was.
This is really, no, this is really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And I think sharing the canvas of where you are. So what the canvas I'm understanding is that there are children who are speaking other languages. You're speaking one of the dominant languages. There are teachers who speak that dominant language. You've said the word dominant a lot. For an audience who is maybe unfamiliar, what is this? Why do we even divide these language into a dominant language, a not dominant language? Where does this debate even arise? What has your journey been on that?
It all happens that in India, there are about 22 state languages, state official languages, and those state official languages were co-opted with the medium of instructions for instance, in Orissa, you will find about 25% people constitute the tribal communities. And the tribal communities do have a Dravidian language family and also from Austroasiatic language family. And our school education, school curriculum and textbooks are written in standard Oriya in order to mainstream all the children. Even in ashram schools, where there were ashram schools, SC/ST schools run by the tribal department, there also the children were given standard Oriya language teaching in order to mainstream them with the national scenario. Therefore, it was compulsory and mandatory for the teachers to teach them in Oriya and get good results. So that was the compulsion, and they were discouraging the children to speak mother tongue. If they speak in mother tongue, they were not taken very seriously, and they were even scolded and they were even abused. That don't use your mother tongue. That is not a written language. That knowledge, that language do not carry any meaning, any knowledge, and anything. So you, in order to be a good person, you have to learn Oriya, learn your school language.
This is really helpful. I think this framing really marks the difference of inequality from the very, very beginning of education.
Yeah.
But I want to still stay with your childhood, and I want to go back to the younger Dr. Mahendra, who's not the doctor at that time, who's studying in that school. And when did that insight came to you that, oh, this is a problem?
Yeah. See, the idea is that when my friends in this classroom were unable to comprehend or unable to answer the teachers in oral conversation, or when unable to give some answers on the paper about the language skills they have learned in the classroom, they all were in an erroneous position. They were in a very conflicting situation, that what they will do if they are not able to read and write that language, and how they are facing with mental tension, that how this Mahendra is doing good, but one or two other students are all doing good because of their non-tribals and coming from a little bit of Oriya language background. But why at all we, the tribal children, are facing this much of issues? And the teachers were also not very sympathetic towards them, but they were not in a hostile mode. They were eager to do their duties because of their intention was to teach them Oriya so that they will also get good results in the school, or else they will also be put to explanation. Therefore, I was very much engrossed with the agony of the tribal children, because they all were telling me that we say, for one instance I am telling you, then in one classroom, teacher saw an egg and asked us, what is this? The tribal children said, this is gar. The teacher said, nonsense, you do not know, this is not gar, this is anda, this is an egg. So the same object said by the student is rejected by the teacher because of the name of the object. So all the objects that are found in the tribal societies or the oral societies, not known to the teachers, this ignorance either of the teachers or of the students of an object really becomes the issue of identity, issue of non-recognizing, non-accepting the knowledge and the skill and the language of the students. In that case, the kind of tension, the kind of conflicts create among the students and the teachers. Teachers is anxious that the students should learn Oriya, and the students are very much surprised that why this particular item of culture is defined differently and articulated differently by the teachers. It is the big departure of the students from the school. So yeah, that particular use of words in two languages, children's mother tongue, which is denied by the teachers, and the teachers' school language not accepted or comprehended by the students. There's a big gap in the teaching of language, which affected the students in accepting that teachers are not accepting us. They are not accepting our language. They don't respect our language. So there is kind of self-hate has developed among the tribal children. And that
Self-hate.
Self-hate.
And why would you say self-hate?
Self-hate is because they said our language is not respected by the teachers. They call that you are the tribal people. Your language is not inferior to the Odia language. Unless you learn Odia language, you cannot become educated. Your language is not the language of the educated. So ignore your mother tongue and learn the second language, Odia. So that kind of time was there when we were also, as the mediator between the teacher and the students, were able to understand the problems of the teachers and also the problems of the children. And I was one of that small mediator who was terribly thinking about the agony of the tribal children, tensions of the tribal children, and the anger of the non-tribal teachers. So that really was incubated in my mind. That really could have taken me into this type of interventions.
No, this is fascinating. I'm sure you're not the only one who's a witness to what's happening, but the kind of witness you were, I think that passion, that observations has stayed with you even as you speak right now. So that's really, really like it's like it happened yesterday, not 40 years back or 60 years back, right? So I think that's the power of it. Let's globalize this. I need your help in that, because I think as Global Schools Forum, working across 70 countries, we've seen this issue not come up one place, but everywhere. I've worked in Pakistan, the language of dominance comes up, that Sindhi is the dominant to the other minority languages. We are seeing in South Africa to every other. And there's a colonial history to it, there is other histories to it. And then, so one is, if you can shed light on when did you learn that this challenge is so prevalent across the globe? And the second is, what kind of insights emerged in your mind that why is there this parallel across continents and countries and still nothing is happening? What is the problem? I'm trying to understand what is the problem.
Ajay, you know that I have gone to Bangladesh and Nepal, Thailand, and also know much about Pakistan. The South Asian language, the nature of South Asian languages, it is highly complementary. It is highly reciprocative. In Pakistan, Hindi is very well spoken in Hindi. Our linkages of languages and the relationship of languages should not be seen from a political boundary. Language has their own boundary. So this linguistic boundaries, like what Nepali is to a Odia scholar, what Nepali is to a Bhojpuri and Maithili, or what Nepali is to a Bengali and Odia. In Bangladesh, when I speak in Odia, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh used to listen to me and say, Mahendra, you are from Orissa, then Orissa and Bangla, eki bhasha. Ami bujhte pari. This is. Secondly, when I went to Nepal, I could understand Nepal very well. Just I opened my ears and see that there are many languages, mixed languages from Bhojpuri, Magahi, and Maithili, Odia, and Bengali, all these languages, and Hindi and Rajasthani, all these languages, somebody from India will feel that the Nepali language, somehow it is connected to India or Pakistan or Bangladesh. So linguistic fluidity and linguistic reciprocity in Southeast Asia, not East, South Asia particularly, is very, very interesting. And I don't see that either I am in Nepal or Bangladesh or India or Pakistan, but I see that there is a linguistic communication and linguistic fluidity between them. And the state languages, that is made a policy that all the children will learn in Nepali, but there are 146 languages in Nepal. And as regards to India, you can take it 19,000 languages, clubbed into 121 languages. So there is a thread of connections between these South Asian languages, and this South Asian languages is connected not because of education, but because of trade, history, political history, and coexistence of many civilizations over the ages. So South Asia is by default multilingual. But the monolingual ideology in schools and official languages in the state make the students bound to become monolingual in reading and writing. So that is one theory of Nepal I excel, that one country, one language, ek raja, ek desh, ek bhasha, ek vesh. So that in Nepal they said raja is one and the king is one, language is one, the dress is one, and everything is one. The uniformity of that language and land and language, or the dress and food and all that, that really has given an identity to Nepal, no doubt. But what about the 146 languages that is contributory to the shape of Nepali language? So therefore, there the idea of monolingualism in school and idea of multilingualism and the society has a very big binary opposition.
This is really, really fascinating and helpful overview and insight, because honestly, like before coming here, like even to this conversation, I wouldn't have thought that language is so fluid, that it's so fluid that across even the whole region, it has a history of fluidity. But this monolingual idea, this mono identity idea, and I think that's where the world is, where it is today in terms of conflicts as well. So it might be something bigger than only not teaching multilingualism. Let's come back to the classroom. We had, and you said you understood the pain of the teachers as well. I want to understand, what is that pain of teachers which you're talking about? Because generally teachers are accused of it. They're accused to be a party of it, right? You're not teaching children in the way they understand. So where are you understanding the pain of the teachers?
Well, 2 months ago, once I had been to Odisha and I visited a school when Angeline Mishra is a teacher, and I found that a little child has come with her mother, and this teacher is very compassionate about the children because he is able to understand the disability of children, to which the other teachers cannot see that. So this girl child came and said to that teacher, Vijayini, that if my mother is admitted in this school, enrolled in this school, then I will come with my mother to learn in this school. Then the teacher said, no, your mother will go to work, therefore you will be with me. I will give you midday meal, I will give you egg, and I will give you all sorts of books and pencils, so you don't worry, I am with you. That child cried a lot. Then say that here my mother is also there, she will also sit in the classroom, and we both will learn, and we both will go back to school after midday meal. So she was not able to understand why she is secluded from her home, and why rest of the children has come to the school without their mothers, and why only one teacher is caring all the children. Then Vijayini said, yes, your mother will certainly come, but she has some other work. So you be here with me, I will take care of you. And when your mother is free from that work, she will come back to your school. I will take admission into your mother also. Then the child was very much happy, and she slept on the lap of the teacher. On the lap of the teacher, and said that when my mother is not there, you are my savior. I am very happy with your behavior. You are not a rude teacher. Therefore, I'll be with you, and I will take food with you. Then she got some kind of compassion from the teacher, love from the teachers, and she said that you also give pen and paper and books to my mother like you have given to me. So see the connections of that child, that the parents should be with the school, with the teachers, considering that the classroom is like a home where the child will not feel out of home and out of mother's care. That really touched my heart, and I said that see how a passionate teacher who has eyes and who has heart and vision to see the pleasure, see the pains of the children, that if the children are really in such a mental tension, mental agony, while coming first 6 to 7 months in the classroom, how they are socialized and how they are accommodated to the classroom situation, so that leaving their parents, leaving their childhood, they come to classroom for learning numeracy and literacy, which is very difficult thing for a younger child to understand reading and writing skill, the understanding letters, memorizing the letters, retaining the letters in the mind, and then able to read and write. So the emotional part of the child must be taken care by the teachers. Not that they will complete the course, but they will try to understand the heart of the child instead of hand and instead of head.
This is, and we say that nowadays with social well-being classrooms and social emotional learning. But I think when you take, if you devoid language, as much effort we place on social well-being might again be completely incomplete, because we are trying to ignore the whole home, the whole identity of the child, the whole culture of the child, as you said, the apple word or the object, so there's no bridge. And when can the school become a bridge? So I want to now take us to a few more complex aspects. While this is complex, but let's say this is still fair enough for people to understand. And I've met many educators, you've met many more, who would have said, I agree with you, Dr. Main. I completely agree with you. But how do I change it? This is the state's policy. This is the government's policy. And right now, we're not talking about the government. We'll come to that. But even if you're going to an individual school and operator, they say we understand. But this is the structure. What do we do? How do we even shape differently?
Yeah, you know that amongst of our global educational theories and writer of the principles of learning, all have John Dewey, Paulo Freire, and Lev Vygotsky, everybody has said the experience of the child is most important in the early literacy. And what is that experience of the child? Associating objects with the world, see the world around the child. What does the child see around her world? In what language the child sees that? And what are the language properties that the child acquired without learning in the classroom? So the most of the language acquisition takes part before coming to the classroom. For all persons, it is a natural phenomenon like breathing or eating or something like that. So the engagement of child is based on, like I'm giving an example of the Language and Learning Foundation, where from class 1 to 3, we highly focus on the community knowledge, community funds of knowledge. That means when the children are coming to the school, they should not be given a new knowledge altogether directly, rather from their cultural experiences, everyday life experiences. If they learn the language acquisition, that is speech act, speech pattern, not language learning. Children used to use speech in a very natural order, and that speech act and speech situation and speech events, which is the ethnography of language of the tribal children or any children, it must important that the communication, the idea of communication should directly come from the natural language learning from the community, home, then mother, home, and then society, peers, and then school. So what are those language properties that really are very much interesting for the children? That is songs and stories and plays and pictures. These 4 areas, those are the very important devices of teaching language to the children, either through storytelling, and that stories should be from the oral tradition of the community, of the village where the children are really there. And the songs, play songs and children's songs are there. And those children's songs and stories, when it is told by their elders, they associate those stories and songs from their natural environment, social environment, and they construct their creativity and imagination through that story. They love some story, they love the songs, they recite the story and songs in their language because of the intrinsically they understand those stories and songs and associate with their environment. This is cultural material that we collected from the community. The Language and Learning Foundation has prepared a lot of big books, a lot of stories and song books. Not a single stories and songs are directly come from any written texts. Whenever we adopt a program in Bastar or in Rajasthan or in Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand, we always orient the MLE practitioners that the stories must from the villages of the children, where the children are really staying. Their language, their stories, and their linguistic properties should come to the textbook in a little bit edited form, not to edit them literally like a literary text of the adults. The children's speech act, children's vocabulary, and children's the way of communication, conversation is much more important than writing all those things in a past tense. Once upon a time there was a crow. That will not happen. Here, see, here is a crow. The crow is sitting on the tree. This type of things. So both these things, that is story and the song, and also the cultural material. Cultural materials, whatever they come across in their everyday life, all the items of culture has a meaning. All the items of culture, like a spoon, like a mirror, and like a comb, everything in the village, in the home, has a memory of past. The connection of the child with their parents, with their peers, have a past and present. Those past and present constitutes the memory of all the items of culture they use in their everyday life, and all the words they use. So all those are the parts of their literacy. If all those things comes in the form of literacy, instead of giving them the vocabulary of second language, if you give them first language from their objects and then turn into second language in a new word, then that will be very capturing for the children, that this is my word, this is my object, and from this object I can write the second language. That was the most important things, that cultural symbols and cultural words that we collect from the story and the songs can be used as literacy.
This description is really helpful also, but it's wonderful as well. Why? Because it challenges some of the profound dominant ways in which generally schools are teaching otherwise. And what does it challenge? It challenges a universal kind of a model. You pick up a knowledge book from a city, bring it to another area, and try to apply it. It's more like a foreigner, kind of an outsider, trying to just share that teach children, rather than the model you're sharing is very listening. It's very observing. It's really empathizing. It's really trying to understand and learn. So over here, the educator is first the learner, and then the imparter of some kind of a knowledge or some kind of a medium. That's a very big shift. That also means that a lot has to be contextualized. In a world where a lot of things we look for quick scaling, a tool to be developed and then published, how does this narrative interact with that thought process of scale? How do you see these kind of practices scaling in different and diverse contexts, which you have already experienced?
Yeah, unless we understand the children and there are three things in multilingual education or in any kind of education, that the socio-cultural context of the child, then the cognitive development of the child through her everyday life and everyday language, and third one is learning literacy in the school. But learning literacy is also two parts. One is oral language development and other is decoding, reading, and writing. So this oral language development is the dominant part of learning a language, not learning a language, acquiring a language naturally. So it is natural language acquisition of the child from the society and family and community and the peer groups, that the child is constructing her vocabulary, constructing her images, in the mental images. When the object is becoming a mental image in the mind of the child, like mountain, birds and trees and rivers, all those things are embedded in the memory of the child, and the child is able to correlate the stories or correlate the the acquired knowledge from the society with the environment. So environment, visual environment really constitutes the cognition of the children, and that really helps us to construct a culturally responsive curriculum. That culturally responsive curriculum from class 1 to 5, if it is highly contextual and culturally sensitive, and it is representing the environment, the society, and the mind and the values of the children, then this can be really a foundation of learning, foundation of literacy, and foundation of learning.
No, that's really helpful. If we come across this another challenge of question which comes across that, you're delaying the process to the global language we want to learn. In this case, in your context, it would have been, you're delaying the process of learning Odia, or you're delaying the process of learning English. Have you heard this criticism?
This is a construct of some other people who are not from the villages. How the villagers really look at all these things. It is the creation of the academicals, those who are not in the habitat. So the village people do have their own way of life. They also have the sense of upward mobility. From the villagers also they have the upward mobility. But a person who is not from that habitat is thinking about those habitats, about those children with their academicus or academic mind. How far it is practical or not, that it is known to everybody. We, as the people from the academicus, should learn from the habitats, understand the habitats of the parents and the children and the society and the others. State is different, but the community who wish their children to teach them in many languages is not a bad thing, and it could be a political construct that this language is high, this language is low, this language is prestigious, this is a language of power, this is the language of knowledge. But in most of the villages, these kind of narratives have no meaning at all, because you see the people in South Asia and Southeast Asia, where people live with their everyday life, with their own livelihood, how much languages they use, they don't really count it. Even if they use English, Thai people use English, Nepali people use English, Bangladeshi, India, Pakistan. But there is a necessity of using the English language or Urdu language or Hindi language for a purpose of action. That purpose of action should be substantiated with the agency of action. Our agency of action is more highly hopeful, highly aspirational, that it is unable to address to the urban, rural, and the tribal divisions of the society. Tribal society needs a different kind of treatment. Rural people or semi-urban people need a different kind of treatment. And the urban children do have their own linguistic repertoire. They also need a different kinds of treatment. When we make everything uniform, understanding and knowing that there is a linguistics and cultural and geographical diversities in country like India or South Asia, we must have to understand that classroom teaching in primary level is a highly local, highly geographical, and highly contextual and highly cognitive. And for that reason, addressing the local children in a given territory, understanding the boundaries of knowledge and boundaries of languages, we must make hundreds of such efforts and hundreds of such experiences. Let hundred of programs and innovations should take place in most of the country, so that they will grow like a beautiful, colorful garden, not a rose garden of white colors. You want a multiple garden with multiple flowers, with multiple fragrance and multiple colors. So that is missing. The way of standardization is really annihilating the creativity and imagination of the students. keeping aside the creativity and imagination the children do have. This is called situated cognition. We want a universal cognition. Universal cognition is possible, but you have to understand that how the situated cognition, what is the cultural attitude of a child towards a dog or a crow or a particular fruits and a particular flower or a particular river. Why river is called sacred one? Why tree is called sacred? Why this particular animal is forbidden to eat? Why a particular fruit is not eaten before a festival is conducted? So our the children's association and attachment with the nature, with the fruits and flowers, with the geography and ecology has created a value that really sustains for a long time to come. It is not our anxiety of teaching them learning or teaching them literacy without understanding that. Without understanding the children's language, children's culture, children's value, children's epistemical knowledge, the villagers' construction of knowledge, our textbook or our teaching, and even our outcome will be a kind of artificial product. We must see that in order to conduct a good MLE program, one should be a good researcher of a village.
I think that's where your title and the profile has a bridge between a linguist, an educator, an anthropologist. And I think that bridge is visible, right? I will go to the questions from anyone and everyone who has joined us. But before that, I have one more question, and then we can come to the questions. So please be ready with your questions. You can write it on the chat as well, or we can bring you on the screen as well. Mahendraji, do you remember a conversation with the government which did not go well? A conversation with an entity where you entered and you tried to convince them something, but it did not go well.
Yeah, this is question from the chat box or the question from you?
This is the question from me, and then we'll come to the questions from the chat box.
Then please tell me again. Then I was looking at the chat box, so please.
Sure, no worries. So because we haven't really talked about government and how do we scale it, or how do we even convince government to, because the dominant language narrative is also coming from the politics of the nation as well. So do you recall some interactions? And if you can share two, one interaction which did not go well and one interaction which has gone well.
Oh, see, this whole governance of the whole globe is dependent on 3 to 4 stages, 3 to 4 sectors. One is political will, second is bureaucratic will, third one is academic will, and fourth is community will. So community is in the below, in the level community is below, and their knowledge is not accepted because of the autonomous monolingual model of education is spread everywhere as a policy of education. Therefore, the academic people are also accustomed to the state policy or the national policy everywhere in this world. Then comes the bureaucratic setup. Bureaucrats are always abided by the national policy, and they give it to the educators, the educational curriculum designer or textbook writers or the teacher trainers to follow the national policy. How much they have been able to understand the national policy is as important how much they have understood the nation which stays in the villages of India. If those things are, if village curriculum, you may be knowing national curriculum framework, but if you don't know the village curriculum framework, then for us there will be a very big gap between the policy and the practice. This is one. When I was working with the state government in the Odisha, many people really stood against me. from not political side, because political people were not able to not take interest in those things. They said what the government is telling, but the bureaucrats were very much keen about my work, why I am after 55 years of independence, why at all I am interested in all these tribal students, those who have been already studied Oriya as a medium of instruction. I said, there are about 19,000 such schools in Orissa, out of which about 8 lakh children and about 11,000 schools. They don't understand Oriya language at all from class 1 to class 3. And those schools are not embedded with primary teachers, belong to their community. So there is a mismatch between the language of the child and the language of teachers. When we came up the linguistic survey, either from the Odisha government or by the LLF conducted linguistic survey in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, every year we found that linguistic survey in the classroom really helps the governance to understand the linguistic situation and the educational backwardness because of language. So I have faced a very difficult situation when one secretary told me that you are unnecessarily doing this because of the children really understand Oriya. I said, if the children understand Oriya, and then can you understand the tribal language? Because if you say that you understand tribal language, if children understand tribal language, so can you understand that language in turn? He said, tell me one example that I will be convinced that they don't understand Oriya. I said, sir, kindly listen one sentence from me that is in tribal language. Aboi Tulavan Singhan Dakuli. What is this? Please tell me. He said, no, I cannot understand this. This is not my language. Sir, this is Saura language. And this language says that एक जंगल में एक शेर था. There was a lion and a tiger. There was a tiger a lion in a forest. Oh, this is the difference. There is a big difference. I don't understand a single word from this language. Which language this belongs to? I said, this is Saura language. And the number of children in Saura language is about 2 lakhs. 2 million. And similar cases there in the whole part of tribal Orissa, where the children from class 1 to 5 face a severe linguistic disability. And if you don't do that, believe that for another coming 30-40 years, your literacy is not going to develop in your state. And with a lot of struggle, I could have convinced them that this is a class 1 to 3. And second point is that our Odia children are learning English. Our Odia children are learning English. I said, in what language they think the English? When they, and once they learn English, do they abandon Odia language or they maintain the language, English and Odia both? He said, why they will forget Odia? I said, similarly, when in your case, you are not ready to abandon Odia after learning English, then in what way the tribal children will abandon their language after learning Odia? So this is called a subtractive approach, where these tribal languages are only used for tokenism to learn Oriya language, a dominant language. So this kind of attitude is there in the governance, and they only agreed to me because of they said that once your children, tribal children learn Oriya, then they have to forget their mother tongue. I said that is not our business. Language is not subject to the government control.
Yeah, just take it away.
Language is not subject to government control. You can control the institutions, but you cannot control the society. You cannot control singing a song of a child or a woman in the village. You cannot control the mantras or the hymns. They really speak before the gods and goddesses. The social multilingualism is like a river that will go. You cannot bridge a dam there. Not possible. But anyway, the chief minister agreed. And the chief minister was not able to understand Oriya, with Naveen Patnaik. He said, why are you interested them to teach in Oriya language, teach in their mother tongue? I said, sir, they don't understand Oriya language at all. Therefore, in order to teach them Oriya, their mother tongue is highly helpful to teach them Oriya. Oh, he was also not able to understand Oriya and speak Oriya. Then he realized that yes, how many numbers of children are there? I said there are about 19,000 schools are there out of 72,000, and about 8 lakh children are not able to learn Oriya. No, they don't speak Oriya in their villages. He allowed, and after allowing that, he gave me 10 languages approval. And after his approval from the tribal advisory committee, the bureaucracy was compelled to help. They said that no, once the chief minister has given his political will, now it is your duty to do it. They suppressed me like anything. They said that you have started this, you have to complete this, you have to do this and that to appease the chief minister. I said, sir, let us appease the children so that chief minister will be happy. The children will learn Oriya. So one important thing is learning a mother tongue helps the child to learn the state language and the other languages. So it is not one language is not enemy to each others. Rather, languages are complementary. Are not a single language is pure. In that case, the tribal, Oriya, English, Hindi, all the languages can be learned in a different stages from one language to the other. Yeah, sir.
No, thank you. I think learning again and again that it's a mindset shift, which is the most critical. It is the attitude towards languages or learning overall, which is most critical. And I think it runs across political ladders, but also family dimension and everywhere. We can, in the interest of time, we can take questions, and we have one question here from Tanaya. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly. And Tanaya, as I'm understanding what you're asking is, for now, as we are thinking about the role of natural language and the rich context of these tribal languages or every language, how are we thinking of building the right infrastructure for artificial intelligence to capture this rich context more easily? Have you or Language and Learning Foundation ever thought of that and have put the programs around it, or do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, artificial intelligence is highly helpful for the standard languages that we have, like Oriya, English, and many Indian languages. If the tribal languages are put into the internet, then it is not impossible that one language can be translated or one language can be articulated to the others. But it is limited to the persons who are using internet. And I am afraid that in India, about 40-50% or 60% rural people do not use internet, or they may be at least having a cell phone for their own use. But using AI in the classroom is a very good tool for the people working in urban areas where they have facilities of this technology. And also taking those technology in classroom can also be possible in the tribal areas, provided the use of technology should not be the main objectives of the learning. The main objectives of the learning of the tribal children, the language and the mathematics, should be based on their comprehension and meaning and their cognition. AI is an artificial cognition, and human cognition is really a natural cognition. So taking help of AI helps the persons to memorize the whole thing, translate the whole thing, analyzing the whole thing from the AI, use of AI. But at the same time, I have found that the many technocrats of this globe have a big threat that they don't want to use AI for the children, those whose minds are very much plastic, and their creativity and imagination, their reasoning, thinking, and whatever is there in their childhood, the complete development of brain up to 11 years must be spent with a natural cognition, not artificial cognition. So I am not very much keen about this, and no, I am not an expert about using AI. However, I use AI for my own use, own benefit. But as regards to the children, I don't have any idea. But one thing I can guess, that children should be given natural cognitive space for learning from their environment, so that that can really develop their natural cognition, and that cognition can be, in a later stage, be helpful for using AI.
Thank you. Tanaya, you can come off mute if you would like to and share your question. I think you have a follow-on.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ajay. And thank you, Dr. Mahendra. This has been a fascinating conversation. Really, really lovely. I think, no, I fully agree with you on, the perspective around AI and students and early learning. I mean, fully in agreement. My question was really more about, as this AI infrastructure is getting built, it's getting built again in the dominant language, right? And in fact, it's getting built mostly in English, not even in the dominant languages
Right.
locally. And
Correct.
I wonder whether we're actually just, completely missing, and you're going to lose languages and you're going to lose everything that you're talking about as you move into this more AI world. How do we, what are maybe the principles we should be thinking about for how to preserve some of this? Because what you're saying is so valuable, right? Start with your natural language and slowly move into the dominant language and use that to move into the dominant language. But that doesn't seem to be the approach in most places. So I'm just wondering, when we're at the early stages of this, and I see this a lot in Africa as well, where you have so many languages, but none of those languages are in any way represented in this so-called AI revolution, right? So I think that's more my question.
Now it is a question of debate. Both in Japan, Switzerland, and some other countries, they have not interested. These countries are not interested to use AI in the primary classes, and they say that their traditional classroom, where the teacher and the student used to have a human teaching learning situations with a kind of use of natural human cognition that really helps them to connect themselves with the nature, society, and compassion, all these things. One. Secondly, when you use calculators, when you use some kind of devices for your own benefit, that really helps you to memorize the whole thing in a second. But your own memory, counting the numbers or subtracting the numbers, are now you are forgetting. You are forgetting your mobile numbers. When you had telephone, you had about 20 to 30 telephone numbers you were remembering in your memory. Now you ask your friends or somebody or the family members, I do not know my wife's telephone number. Really, I'm telling you, because I am dependent on the machine. So in that case, maintaining both ecology of learning and technology of learning, how both can come together, and how skillfully, without limiting the natural cognition, if somebody will use AI with an uncompromising manner, possibly that will really help the creative writers creative scientists to work on. One linguist, great linguist of India, Mr. Ganesh Devi, has written a book about this, and he says that we as a human being in the whole globe are missing out in the culture of forgetting. And that culture of forgetting is really happening with our imagination and creativity. Our imagination and creativity is subordinated by the machine. If we want to draw a picture of a tree, we are not drawing the picture of a tree, and we are commanding the AI to draw a picture of a tree, and that tree is a universal tree. What tree that you are really thinking about, that is not important. You will get a universal tree or a universal story from the AI, but that has nothing to do with your cognition, your imagination. If you draw a story into a picture, like the children used to do in our storytelling festivals, the children come up with a lot of imagination, what they have not been able to write on the board, the story in 5 to 6 sentences, they speak more in the pictures, and that the picture is more articulative and more imaginary and more creative than the written text. So now imagine that if we want to make it a mechanic business or make it useful for the AI, that will be standardized. That cannot be unique to a child. And each human brain is unique in the sense that the human cognition cannot be replaced with machine.
I think the beauty of your response in continuum to all questions, which I find, and I think really fascinating, and we're coming to a close as well. Maybe that's the summary which I'm learning, and I have one more question to ask, is more and more trying to standardize things in the quest of scaling, in the quest of reaching wider audiences. But what I'm learning from you is, are we even listening to people? Are we listening to their own context? Are we listening to the history of their context, which has come over decades and centuries? And there's just so much more to learn by listening and then offering things as a medium. That's my takeaway. But I would like to ask you one question. If those who are in the room and those who are watching this recording, if they are, and they're all mostly educators in the room, if you have to advise them one thing which they can do tomorrow to bring the community and the classrooms closer, what would that one thing be? What would that one advice be?
See, when there is no school in a village, still there is a learning. The village is full of potentials of learning, and that is called productive learning. Those productive learning has taught us how to process the food, how to cultivate the field, how to understand the forest, how to play traditional games, how to develop our traditional technologies. So many things there are in there. Just imagine a village where you can find anthropology, sociology, linguistics, literature, mathematics, natural science, and botany, zoology, and chemistry. Everything is there in a village in the cultural practice, and that is called practice knowledge. Our knowledge is a created knowledge from the textbooks and experiments and high level of science. But the people's knowledge is completely productive knowledge, immediately useful knowledge, and those knowledges have really contributed to the greater scientific knowledge of the world. Therefore, if you are to really teach the students, or you are to train the teachers, or you are to adopt a particularly creative educational program, not only MLE, but any kind of things that even on gender also you can do the same thing. Any kind of things that you take, you have to understand the creator of knowledge. Maybe they are non-literate, maybe they have not codified the things in the books, but a farmer has never tried to write a book on how he created the paddy farming. But over centuries, they have been doing this, understanding the weather, understanding the geography, understanding the kind of rains and kind of rainfall and kind of agriculture. So productive knowledge is always there in the mind of the collective memory of the community who live on that. Living a knowledge and learning a knowledge are two different things. Common people live in a knowledge, and we learn the knowledge, codifying the whole thing in our internet or the textbooks or in journals. So our knowledge is a secondary knowledge, and the productive knowledge is a primary knowledge. And those primary knowledge, irrespective of literate or non-literate, has created a lot of innovations for the whole human development and human welfare. If the nature is not there, if the air and water is not there, if the forest is not there, what kind of knowledge we really find? Can you stay in a city where there is no oxygen? Can you stay in a city where there is a scarcity of water? So the most important thing is to sustain the world through the natural resources and the natural human cognition, and then use the science as our slaves, not as our masters. That is the big challenges that has come to the whole world, and the people are really facing the devastation of science, the abuses of science, and the denigration of human ethics and morals and creativity. and the beauty of the world. So now it is most important that if you are to do something in any of the branches of knowledge of the world for human development, go to the people, go to the community. Learn from the people the way they live the knowledge. They are not illiterate, but they are knowledgeable scientists. And once you learn from them, unlearn yourself from the bookish knowledge, or you connect yourself with the practice knowledge, with the bookish knowledge, and then teach the people, either it is basic literacy or basic ecology or basic political theory, everything, that whatever you want to teach them, or organic agriculture, all these things will be possible if the community is vibrant with the educated people, those who are the policymakers and educators. If they will not learn from the people, they cannot succeed in the development processes. And more importantly, the people to whom you are going to serve should be a part of your program. If they are not in the program, and if you are coming with your own emblem, that the government and we people, we just are not enough. The whole society should be a part of our journey, so that their children, their language, and their knowledge, and their stories, and their land, and their education can really bloom like a beautiful tree in a village. And just imagine a village, don't imagine the country.
Yeah.
Imagine a village, and you just try in your life that you are trying to transform a village without breaking their cultural and natural resources, and you are cognitively making them highly learnable people, educated people, to understand their ecology, to understand their economy, to understand their culture, and to see how they develop in the society. Perhaps that is the dream of Gram Swaraj, what Gandhi has imagined. And we are the smaller people of this country, with a little bit of aspiration and hopes drawn from Rabindranath Tagore or Gandhi. We are aspiring for keeping the light burning from the knowledges that we have learned from our land. That's important.
Really, really grateful, Dr. Mahendra, for such a candid, beautiful conversation with so much wisdom, which you've also acquired from those very villages and are sharing with us. So thank you so much for sharing this space with us. And thank you everyone who was able to join. Your presence has been really helpful and grateful. So thank you.
All the best. I'm really happy. Thank you. Okay. So now can I sign out?